If your pelvic floor muscles and abdominal muscles are strong, when it sinks very low, you can push it to the highest position, which is the ideal state. At this point, your lung capacity is the greatest, so you need to train your diaphragm's ability later, but not now, because for most people, the diaphragm is stuck below and can't come up. So you need to first find a way to bring it back to its original position, and then find a way to make it sink lower than before. At this point, the stability of the thorax will be better, but when it sinks very low, it is generally stable. It is stability that dominates, not inhalation. At this time, you are training the strength of the diaphragm, its peak, the contraction strength, and how many muscle fibers above the diaphragm are recruited. The brain is very smart because you are just inhaling. It doesn't need to mobilize that many muscles. The logic is simple. If I'm just picking up this bottle of water, I don't need to use 100 kilograms of force. Even though I can easily lift 100 kilograms, when I look at this bottle of water, I roughly estimate its weight. At this point, my brain will recruit a small portion of muscles through the nerves to lift the water. The muscle fibers above the diaphragm work the same way. When you are just breathing, it won't use a lot of force to lower the diaphragm further. But if you are holding a 100 kilogram barbell and still need to breathe, in this situation, after you take a full breath and hold it still, your diaphragm has already sunk to its lowest point. When you hold your breath and remain still while carrying weight, you are not breathing at this time. The opportunity jumps directly from this position to that position. Do you understand? Even though you are not continuing to inhale, as long as you take a full breath, hold it still, and then suddenly lift a very heavy weight, at this moment, the diaphragm will suddenly drop on its own. This is what you see. It moves from between the first and second lines to between the second and third lines. And at this point, your diaphragm will sink even lower. This is also why, during the live broadcast I mentioned, many yoga instructors have strong diaphragms. Normally, the diaphragm is not engaged during meditation. Can it sink? It's because experienced yoga instructors practice breathing while in a headstand. In this position, your internal organs and intestines are all pressing on the diaphragm. So when you inhale and the diaphragm moves downward, it pushes all the internal organs, which is like having weight plates hanging on the diaphragm. This is why there are many inverted poses in yoga. Initially, when a person gets up like this, their feet are on the ground, and at this time it only presses the abdominal organs on top. Then there are also poses where the legs are crossed. There are also poses where the legs are fully extended, which completely presses your pelvic and abdominal cavities on top. So it progresses step by step, determining how much of your internal organs press on the diaphragm while you can still inhale. Practicing in this way allows your diaphragm to sink lower. This is one of the significances of doing headstands, including improving some organ prolapse and reducing high pressure in the organs as it adjusts the direction of gravity. In this way, the abdominal cavities organs are pressed on top, but the pelvic cavities are not. Can you understand this? So, in this situation, you can still inhale, meaning the diaphragm has to push these organs down. This can also help correct an overly straight thoracic curve. However, the downside is that while the thoracic curve is improved, the cervical curve becomes straightened because the pressure on your cervical spine is significant. These are two different forms of headstands. Does this mean that the pelvic cavities organs are also pressed on top? In this case, the lever arm is longer, making it more difficult. So in such a state, if you can inhale, your diaphragm is very strong. For the vast majority of people today, you need to first find a way to push their diaphragm up. I'll give you the answer directly. When your members come to you to practice breathing, they can't start with inhalation. They need to practice exhalation first. You need to push their diaphragm up from below. And only after they have practiced exhalation for a while can you start practicing inhalation. Is that easy to understand? Yes.